Hello and welcome to this final exploring session, looking at our first exploring session, looking at the tragedy of Claudius Tiberius Nero, Rome's greatest tyrant, truly represented out of the purest records of those times. And just going to mention this again, the author uses no scenes supposed as many do, but make the truth my scene. The truth is the scene. It is all true. He definitely did the research. Answers discuss that at future time. Actually, so far, it hasn't been that far out. A few liberties have been taken, but I don't think this is outrageously, egregiously wrong so far. We shall see. There's still time. So we're going from scene 19 with this wonderful room of people, visible or invisible, depending on how the universe leaves us. So reading Caligula today is
Alan in Suffolk with my boots on.
The littlest boots that are available. Reading Drusus, Tiberius, Celsus, and Nerva, a beacon of hope for us all, is...
Hi. I'm the beacon of hope. Hi. I'm Eric. I'm here. I have fruits and nuts and lots of delicious things I'm hoping to snack on in between scenes.
Reading Tiberius today is...
Francis Cox, actor and voice artist living in Amsterdam, and I have nothing to snack on.
Oh, well, I'm sure we can arrange something. We'll email you something.
I've got snacks in the kitchen, but nothing here with me in my office.
Reading Messengers 1 and 3, Drusus and Agrippina is...
Hello, I'm Lynn. I'm in the Northwestern United States, and I just have a tiny little bit of coffee.
Reading Messenger 2 and 4, as well as Livia, is...
Aliki, I'm in Athens, and I have a bottle of water.
Reading Sejanus and a jailer is...
Lois in London, also with water. Cheers.
And though there is no visual evidence to prove this, reading Spado, Nero, and Macro is...
Connor Brown here in London at the dark abyss.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and jumping in if required. But I think we've actually got a fair amount of slack to the system. This is a play that on the cast list makes it look like it's got a cast of millions, but actually the primary cast is pretty tight, actually. Anyway, going from scene 19, we've just had the corpse of Piso dragged in, having been torn literally limb from limb, or all the limbs in the hands of the crowd. We go back to slightly more civilized times where no one's trying to murder anyone. He said, "Enter Tiberius and Sejanus out of the cave."
Sejanus.
My lord?
Ho, Sejanus.
Here, my gracious lord.
A plague upon him that first made this cave. It was not sumptuous, not fair enough to be the tomb of a live emperor. Thanks to my genius and thy providence that hath defended me from farther ill, and yet my shoulders feel the heavy load. Sirrah, a brush. Vanish the monuments of antique worlds. Mewed in external silence be obscured. Not Theseus' love unto Freitas, not Alexander's to Hephaestion, nor the two brethren of Paris sworn, that in eternal courses scale the heavens, did ever manifest such demonstrations of faith unfeigned and more than turtle dove, saved my life now by my genius, if all the world were 10 times multiplied, and one of them were made of massy gold, enamelled with pearls and diamonds, embossed with jasper and alite's virtue. Yea, were all these imaginary worlds under Tiberius his dominion. This world, this rough-cast world with precious gems, should be the guerdon of my savoured life. Ah, my Sejanus, what can Nero find to counterbalance such a faithful mind?
Most gracious Caesar, mighty emperor, had Pelion and Ossa been conjoined, had mounting Taenarus with the snowy Alps and high Olympus overwhelmed the cave, yet would Sejanus, like Briareus, have been emboweled in this earthly hell to save the life of great Tiberius.
Now have I tried the trueness of thy stamp. By the touchstone of this late oppression, Nero repays thy love with usury. But by my genius, how this sudden fear hath made us clean forget his mother's care. Tell me, Sejanus, how fares Julia?
My lord, she doth commend her to your grace, but very weak upon a surfeit taken.
As how, Sejanus? Old folks use good diet.
And so did she, my lord. At supper time, she took a kernel of restorative in a pomegranate, which did so prevail as that left her sicker with her physic. Asinius and Sabinus, her dear friends, from that apothecary did receive the like restorative, with like effect, and then I posted to your majesty.
Julia, Sabinius, and Asinius, for each a tear, so to Elysium. But what, Sejanus, note I in thy face? The seal of fear, though well dissembled, are they not all dispatched? Why dost thou fear?
Upon my honour, all are perished.
What doth thy conscience then disturb thy soul? What means the careless rolling of thine eyes, thy loving sorrow folding of thine arms, thy sudden sighs, thy wavering countenance? Now all thy blood doth ebb into thy heart, now all thy blushing visage overflows. Speak, my Sejanus, savour of my life, and by my genius thou shalt obtain.
Fear and allegiance, duty and affection, honour and pity, loyalty and love, raise mutual tumults in my cloven heart.
Speak, good Sejanus. Nero longs to hear the mutinous dissension of thy fear.
Maybe, my lord, Sejanus fears in vain.
Let Caesar know, lest Caesar fear in vain.
What if, my lord, it do concern my hurt?
Yet tell to Caesar who can cure thy hurt.
I am persuaded that it is but forged.
Well, whosoever I command thee show.
Falter my tongue, thou doleful instrument, infortunate to tell so bad a story. Pardon, my lord.
Sejanus I command, and by my genius I will be obeyed.
Then heavens bear witness, what I do record comes of no malice nor ambition, for of mine honour I do think it forged. My lord, since you lay in Campania, it is a rumour blown by vulgar wind that you will never back return to Rome. I could not guess on what presumption, but when I first assaulted Julia, and she had swallowed up the poisonous bait, faith, then, in love unto her ladyship, I told her that your grace did seek her death. Not meanness, with the frantic dames of Thrace, that in their Dionysian sacrifice mangled the body of poor Pentheus, raved like Julia in her passion.
Oh, how it doth me good to hear her mad.
May it please your majesty to give me leave here to set down a doleful period.
No, by my genius Nero will hear all.
After the fury, anger took her throne, like a fierce lion chased to seek revenge, when wooing me with many honey words of good and wise and friend and debonair, idle synonymies of woman's wit, she all too prayed my constant secrecy, and I, too near the summial exigent, swore never to reveal her policy, whilst Julia and Sejanus both should live. And I have kept my promise with her too. Then did she seem to woo me with her look, but, good my lord, let here Sejanus leave, for on my honour all may be but forged.
If thou conceal but one syllable, Nero will hate thee in eternity.
My lord, great Julia said she would prevent Tiberius in his tiger's cruelty. She swore my age, she swore my secrecy, adding a gift to every word she spake, this ring, this signet of Augustus' arms, this jewel, picture of your noble father. Yet, Julia, you know my lord was wise, and all may be but forged policy. She said how she devised had the plot in this Campanian secession, oh, gods forfend, to end Tiberius' days.
'Tis well, Sejanus, but proceed.
The day before the blistering Ides of March, which, as I take it, this day is expired, that made me post so hastily from Rome, on this same fatal day, old Julia swore, her son Tiberius should be poisoned. But by whose means, my lord, I must conceal, for of my honor I do think it forged.
Conceal a traitor, and my guard shall lop thy jointed carcass. Go to tell me all.
Why then, my lord, imagine all is false, and what I say is all but counterfeit. Do not conceive that Drusus, your dear son, aspires to be a present emperor. Believe not that this day he makes a feast where mighty Caesar should be poisoned. Think not that Spado, that twig soon bent to ill, is now corrupted to perform the act, who, tasting first unto your majesty, with a vine branch enfolded on his arm, will squeeze in poisonous drugs to slay my lord. Imagine this to be a lying dream, though Julia sware and vowed it should be so, and made great joyance that it should be so. Believe it not. Surely she said not true, for on my honor I do think it forged.
No, Sejanus, I have well observed the haughty stomach of the aspiring boy, but I'll pull him down his lofty crested plumes and teach him homage to his sovereign. How dare the straggling elf once look on me and not be turned into an aspen leaf to tremble at each breached syllable?
Be patient, good my lord. Perhaps 'tis false, or be it true. Who would once conceive such headlong fury and ambitious thoughts? Did not Mithridates, Pontus' king, forgive Freitas, his rebellious son? Did not Jugurtha's father often check his high aspiring thoughts, yet him forgave?
Talk of forgiveness in some petty kings, not in the state of mighty emperors. This day he doeth provide Thyestes' feast, and bids his father to the bloody cates. Persuade me not, Sejanus, I will go. I have already promised him to come, and if the villain offers me these drugs, I'll make him swill the cup. I should carouse.
Enter Spado toward them.
But here comes Spado, his fine instrument. See where his garland is. I'll stab the slave.
No, good my lord. How can you then inquire the hateful treasons of your wicked son?
'Tis true, Sejanus. I will hold my hands.
Oh, I feared I should have been betrayed.
Ever Augustus, Drusus' royal banquet requires the presence of Tiberius.
They draw aside the arras and banquet on the stage. Spado toasteth to Tiberius, and after ensueth the poison.
My lord, the young Drusus wisheth happiness to Caesar, Nero Caesar, in this cup of wine.
Drusus, do thou begin unto Tiberius.
My lord, mid please you hear his other wine.
But taste of this, my son. I'm sure 'tis good.
Here's the like, my gracious lord beside.
It may be like, but not so altogether.
'Tis of the same.
Well, please my humour, son.
Well, good my lord.
By Jove, I'll have it so.
And Drusus drinketh and falls down. Sejanus stabbeth Spado. Enter a messenger.
Where is the emperor? Augusta is dead.
Go tell that news to Proserpine.
And he stabs him. So messenger number 1 didn't last long. Enter another messenger.
Where's Caesar? Great Germanicus is dead.
Commend me to Germanicus.
Stabs him too. Enter messenger number 3.
Where's Nero? Piso is by the plebeian slain.
Let ravens and vultures gore on his flesh, and thine.
Stabs him. Enter another messenger who's possibly thinking maybe actually he should come back another day.
Where is Tiberius? Where is Caesar's grace? Asinius and Sabinus both are dead.
Go greet them both thus from Tiberius.
Do you really need me to read it? Stabs him.
How now? What news bringest thou? Speak, villain, speak.
Sejanus cometh towards him and maketh at him. Sejanus crieth out, and Nero stareth at him.
No news, my lord. I am Sejanus. I saved your life, my lord. I am Sejanus.
Pardon, Sejanus, only faithful friend. The headlong fury of a troubled soul. I dare not trust myself to see my son. Who would wear a crown to be tormented? Sejanus, I must ride in post to Rome to rein the fury of the common herd. See these foul carcasses be buried. Go to, Sejanus. When I have my will, I'll make thee pattern of thy villains. Meanwhile, I will to Rome to find the books Augustus wrote and left with Julia.
Exit Tiberius.
Why, this is well. Germanicus is gone with Julia and with Drusus into hell. Follow, Sejanus. No, thy wits, I mean. Alas, poor Drusus. Troth, I pity thee. And Spado, too. Methinks now I could weep, but that it is too womanly. This chopping boy, whom I corrupted for this stratagem, I did him a great favor. Had he lived, Tiberius would have had him tortured, hanged by the navel for confession. Drusus, for thee, I could have wished thy life, but reason did enforce thy destiny. First, that thou wert heir to Tiberius, next, an observer of my secrecies. Thirdly, thy Livia, that queen of beauty, the eldest daughter to Germanicus, Sejanus' secret friend, thy secret foe, next to Germanicus, heir to the crown, thy sometime, now my wife, if heavens agree, to make me heir unto a prince's throne. Nay, more, an empire thus shall be mine own. Oh, fourthly, the blow which I received in peace, until revenge might satisfy my will. All these, or any, were sufficient. I'm sorry I've used thee too well. Now, to the sum. Of all my foes are left Tiberius Caesar, with him Agrippina, Nero and Drusus, the Germanici. Then thus, the fierce enraged Germanici I will incense against Tiberius as the sole agent in their father's death. Show them the favors of the senators, the plebeians' hearts enchained to their becks, fair baits for to allure their young conceits. A rebellion I'll entitle honorable, and if that we obtain the victory, as I have bound them legions to mine host, then will I have my spies, my fawning curs, my hireling hellhounds in the battle's heat, to murder both the young Germanici. Tiberius vanquished, and these made away. Caesar Sejanus, Empress Livia.
Exit Sejanus. who seems to have inherited from Germanicus the long listicle format that we had from earlier. Though I did quite like this listicle because it sort of had a certain standing over the corpses, doing a little shopping list quality to it that I quite enjoyed. So, who is expecting the great on-stage massacre? We've had an off-stage massacre. That's three people reported dead in, more than three. Loads of people have been reported off stage dead, and then suddenly, and then Tiberius just goes on a psychopathic frenzy and just stabs people left, right, and centre. Which I have to say, I enjoy. I just have this image now of them slowly dragging the bodies off. But we have this sort of exposition on his relationship with Spado, who we did say earlier, whose servant, what's going on there, and actually he sort of explains how it all worked. And it was a good thing I killed you because otherwise you'd have been horribly tortured. So I'm obviously a great guy. Quite a lot. I don't think Tiberius did stab a lot of people randomly to death. I'm going to just say that might not be from the historical sources that this guy says was absolutely true. I think this might not be true, but I could be wrong. Alan.
Yeah, but of course they're unnamed characters, so they don't really count.
Total red shirts.
It's only the characters who've got names that you need to worry about. The rest is just stage dressing.
I like Lynn's point. Yeah, red shirts. There are quite a lot of Star Trek references that I'm getting out of this. So we had Kirk fighting one-to-one combat last time with a Gorn. So this time, just random red shirts. They come on and just got taken out. Lynn.
To be fair to our author, the Emperor could have stabbed any number of messengers, and there wouldn't be a historical record of it. He'd be like, "Oh well, get rid of these bodies." Yeah, I don't know about this. I mean, we sure the whole thing's not supposed to be a farce? Because, come on, you could have had one messenger come in and tell him all these people are dead, and Tiberius could have stabbed the one guy. But no, he's got to kill 5 people in 3 minutes.
Well, I think the importance of it is he then goes for Sejanus, and Sejanus goes, "Whoa, no! Do you remember when I just saved you at the beginning of this scene?" Aliki.
I mean, this play does not do anything sparingly. It doesn't
by halves, right?
An economy.
Yeah, because it's like we're doing massive exposition dumps, we're doing massive speeches, we're doing set pieces. I mean, did I say last time on camera, because I mentioned Hoffman, because in the same there isn't a burning crown, but there is a poisoned crown, and I again, this perfectly coincident and connective with tragedy as we know it is that there is this sort of excess that is available there. I don't think you need to spoof it for it to be, and for that matter, it's got to be shocking. These people dying. Lois, then Francis.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder a bit about the casting of this thing. I mean, obviously, I don't mean they're 4 expendable actors, but just that you have a pretty big cast if you can keep bringing on extras like this, though I suppose they could be doubling other people. The other thing is just that whole idea of the sequence of messengers. I mean, I can think of other places where it occurs, and it can be quite effective. I mean, there's a much later example in The Broken Heart by Ford, where one person after another comes and tells the queen during a dance that somebody is dead, somebody that she cares quite a lot about. And she keeps hearing this, and she keeps saying, on with the dance, on with the dance. And in fact, I think it also happens in The Malcontent, also during a dance. So that idea of, using multiple messengers instead of one to get that peculiar effect of, he's dead, she's dead, she's dead. It's a sort of dramatic trope, I guess. One of the many things that this author has picked up from things that he's seen.
Yeah, and also, he kills all these people after killing his own son. I should just point out, he's probably not in a great place. If we want to add some psychology to this situation, and I don't think you should, but you could, he's not in a great place. Francis.
Well, that's exactly what he says. I love that bit. I love that bit where he just kind of says, "Oh, sorry, Sejanus, I was just in a bit of a state because my son was trying to poison me."
Yeah, and I think there's this question about a more extreme performance style that can hinge in a general area of comedy, but in fact also is very straight. I mean, it's sort of the thing that melodrama does, and I do wonder whether this is where this is more leaning towards in terms of a sort of performance style. There's an awful lot of people doing set piece things rather than necessarily drama as we might care about it. Eric, you are muted at present.
The pacing is kind of weird though, because I feel like for the beginning of the scene is very slow, sort of casual almost, and then it sort of speeds up when the banquet enters, and you've got that sort of stab. I mean, obviously there's poisoning, stab. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like having fireworks or something, or like needing them for something else. I don't know. It's a very strange pacing thing.
Yeah, and you're right. And we've had this throughout the whole play. I mean, Lynn was talking about this the other day. Is that we do go from these slow bits. It's slow, quick, slow throughout. But then all the stuff that's slow might actually be the stuff we cut. So I'm thinking for the production, actually this could be quite fast paced. There's an awful lot of material in this play where I'm going, we don't need all of this. Some of this stuff is good. I did quite like Sejanus' speech there, but I found some of the earlier stuff a bit interminable because it's sort of telling us stuff we already know, and we need to decide how many times we need to tell the audience the same things. Aliki.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about the possibility that this is somebody who's seen a lot more plays. The writer has seen a lot more plays than he's written or knows the workings of. And you get a lot of that feeling that this is a device he's seen but doesn't quite know how to apply. He's heard of pacing. He knows that some bits are meant to be slow and some bits are meant to be fast. It's just a bit struggling with which one should be which.
Yeah, because it's like he either does long speeches or he does action, but there really isn't much in between, is there? But I'm quite liking this. I'm really curious about the effect of this. Actually, assuming we didn't do any editorial tweaks and just presented it as it is, how that would go down, because it's a really curious thing. Eric,
it's also interesting. I mean, Tiberius is paranoid enough to believe Sejanus in the I don't know what he's done before this part, because this is my first session with this play, but I mean he's paranoid enough to believe Sejanus and decide very quickly that he's going to kill either somebody at any point, mainly his son and then everybody else, because he does go, I'll make him swallow the cup, and I should carouse and stuff, and it's like he kind of decides very quickly that he's going to kill his son no matter what.
Well, son is now dead. Lots of people are dead. I don't know if the next scene is very short, but it might just be while everyone's dragging the bodies off. I don't know whether they're doing it during Sejanus' speech. Maybe as he mentions each person in turn, the body is dragged off by some supernumerary. I wonder about these things. Lois.
There does seem to be a curtain. I mean, it was mentioned earlier on, so maybe they draw the curtain in front
maybe
of the
they
body.
all conveniently reversed backwards, having been stabbed and fell over the table. And then they just close the curtains on them. I mean, that would be very convenient. The servants are well trained. They know if they're going to get murdered that they should do it tidily. So. Okay, put back in their box they have been. Scene 20, we'll run a few things into each other. Scene 20, enter Caligula Solus.
Now, pleasured by fit occasion, pour forth the treasures of thy inward thoughts, which too long have been imprisoned. Now muse on Rome's ensuing miseries, Tiberius' treasons, and thy father's death, thy brother's danger, and thine own contempt, and musing, meditate upon revenge. banish hearts quiet from thy sleeping thoughts, until thy thoughts be satisfied with blood. Nero, I come, inspire me unjustest rage, and Rome shall tremble at Caligula.
Exit Caligula. Ooh. Scene 21. Enter Sejanus with Nero and Drusus Germanicus.
Nero, Drusus, Drusus, Nero, both are one or both, for both I know are one, and what I speak to one, I speak to both. Nay, hear me out, for what I speak is true. Piso did poison great Germanicus, your father, Nero's son, and my good lord. Aye, by Tiberius's policy. Lo, here the pardon made for Piso drawn, which Julia, dying, did to me commend. What shall I speak to move you to revenge? The Senate is devoted to your stock. The common people in soft murmuring, like bees do suck the honey of your hives. What if some wasps do move Tiberius? I have a swarm. Maugre these lazy drones, I have the legions at Sejanus' beck. And for my sake, and especially for yours, I know they will vibrate all their force beside the honor of your country's good. Exile the tyrant. So did Cassius, Brutus the elder, and the younger Brute. Honor and favor, youth and legions, the senators and the plebeians. If all may move you, courage, noble hearts, let hares and hearts be fearful in their kinds. Romans have valiant and undaunted minds.
Brother, a word with you.
And takes him aside.
I go consult, whilst I centuriate 1,000 nets to catch such tender fools.
Drusus, how dost thou like Sejanus' gesture?
Faith, like his words, for both are counterfeit.
Upon my life, Tiberius sent the slave.
'Tis so, by Jove, 'tis so. Look, brother, see how the damned villain fleers and laughs and lowers. Oh, we'll first begin with him, and then for Nero.
They begin to draw.
Brother, content, and now be resolute. But here comes Julius Celsus. Hold thy hand.
Enter Julius Celsus.
Fly, fly, Sejanus. Julius bids thee fly. Nero hath found thy death in Julia's house. I mean, the cause of death, thy treacheries, the letter thou sent'st to Livia. Away, shift for thyself, and so will I.
Exit Celsus.
Hath he found that? Sejanus, curse thyself, the lower world and the highest heaven, that he hath found them. Die, consume, and burn. I hear the noise of horses. They are here. A plague upon them all. Then here away.
Exit Sejanus.
Brother, away, 'tis time. We may suspect.
Exit Nero and Drusus. Sejanus looks in at the door and speaketh.
Hell yawn and swallow them. That way I am stopped. This way the dogs will bark and so betray me. The geese will gaggle if I fly this way. There are his murderous guard. Hell confound them. Oh, for the 7-way house of Hannibal. Sejanus, kill thyself. Oh no, I dare not. Would I were an ass to bear. So I am. I am not. I fly. I dare not. I cannot. I must.
Exit Sejanus. Okay, this is a really weird sequence. It's a weird sequence beyond the fact that this is completely, absolutely not how Sejanus falls. There is a letter thing that is passed on, but he is captured in a cunning display in the Senate, of which is very public and pretty much definitely happened. There's very little doubt about that as a historical event. He doesn't have some random dude called Celsus turn up, who I don't think we've met before, and I don't think we're ever going to meet again. It's just like, hi, who are you? I'm a plot device. Excellent. And, you know, I'm just here to deliver some stuff. But I would just like to point the most important thing about this, and I don't know whether we have a lot of people referencing bees, doing bee things, but have we had before, and I ask this question in all seriousness, have we heard bees good versus evil wasps before? Have we had that in literature in any of the plays that we've done yet? Because I think this is a very important concept that is very ingrained in our modern culture, that wasps are evil and bees are good. And I'm just curious as to where that lives in dramatically. Is this the first instance of evil wasps versus good bees? I'm asking the question. I seriously do not expect anyone to answer that question. That is fine. Eric.
I'm pretty sure we have actually in one of the older sort of plays that we did. Like I can't remember what it was called, but it was something about bees, and there were a lot of like bee references with fairies and stuff. I can't quite remember what it was called. But I can probably find the title by the end of the session.
Oh yeah, did you read The Parliament of Bees?
Yes, but that's later. So
yeah, right.
we have done The Parliament of Bees. It's disappointingly boring. It's very disappointing. I was so looking forward to The Parliament of Bees. Anyway, so we've got Caligula going, I have been quiet too long. It is time to do something about this bad person. And Sejanus doing stuff, and Drusus and Nero, and they're about to kill him and do stuff, but then they don't need to, because dude comes on and he has to run away. And yeah, it's really weird. And Sejanus is hemmed in. He can't escape because there's geese down that way, and they'll which is a Roman thing. There is a whole thing about geese protecting Rome. That comes from something that's not totally random, but in this context, it's just like there's a marching band down that street, and there's yeah. Bless. That's a difficult one to carry off.
I mean, if you've ever pissed off a goose, then you know that they're dangerous. But I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Geese are the worst.
Yeah. Geese, wasps. I mean, it's just a
dangerous wildlife here.
Yeah. Okay. Any other thoughts on this one? Sorry. Okay, let's go on to scene 22, because and I should just point out the precise numbering of scenes may vary at this point in the text, because it depends on how you break up the battle as to how you from earlier as to how many scenes you've got. But we're calling this scene 22. Enter Tiberius with his guard pursuing Sejanus.
Haste for your lives. Seek, search, inquire, stop, stay, misdoubt, examine, spy, watch, have a care. And if he pass, not one of you shall escape the extremest torments that I can inflict. Post, away some to the capital, some to Port Esquiline, Mount Palatine. Watch the streets, the Drusian streets, high to the altars, the Egerian wood, the bridge of Tiber and Prometheus Lake, somewhere, anywhere, everywhere, away!
Oh, enter Sejanus. The Tiberius, I don't think he's well, is he? The guard besets all the doors he draweth, and prothereth to come divers ways. At last rusheth on the guard, fighteth and is taken.
Heaven, earth, hell, help, hide, gape. Here, swallow up a living sacrifice, graced with a hecatomb of slaughtered slaves. Hold sword, Sejanus barters death for death.
So, bind the traitor fast in iron chains. Now, slave of honour, ground of infamy, obliquious subject and fair dealing shame. Nay, hear me, villain, for thou must and shalt.
Must, shall, and will, for I am bound to do it.
Aye, and to bear whatever I inflict.
Strike quickly, strike home. I wait the stroke, and shall embrace the instrument of death, and never grieve to drown it in my blood, so that the streamy spirits that ascend were of sufficient force to strangle thee.
Ah, good Sejanus, how yet I pity thee.
I crave no pity, neither fear thy pride, whose pity only serveth for a truce to levy new supply of tyranny.
The man begins to play the orator. Get him a throne to grace his eloquence.
Oh, this kind of courtesy I will accept.
Yet shall you not perform it, except I will.
If, tigers issue, thou shouldst cut out my tongue and rob my thoughts of their ambassador, the boundless ocean of my swelling thoughts, enraged with the malice of my heart, would overflow my breast's murmuring banks to make relation of thy villainy.
Oh, terrible revenge, intolerable, but I shall undergo it as I may, and here and there still as you glance at me. But touch a little your own villainies, and then therein play the true historian. Tut, courage, man, why dost thou not begin?
Bidst thou begin, who long will wish me end, ere I have lipped up half thy villainies, which never will have end until thou end. Oh, hadst thou ended ere thou hadst begun, so many evils had not chanced in Rome. Then had not Vesta's tapers been defiled, nor the altars turned to irreligious uses. When thou didst make her never-dying lamps serve for the torches to thy burning lust, the whilst her temple made a brothel house, and all her virgins prostitute to thee. But these are but thy meanest outrages, wrought in thy villainous minority. Thy Cleopatrian cates could scarce digest, without a measure danced by naked trulls, to feed thy glutton eyes' immodest gaze.
And where was then Sejanus, holy man?
Oh, herein I do accuse myself of guilt.
Beshrew thy hateful head for doing it.
Bail to thy hateful heart for causing it.
Thy plotting head for so inventing it.
Thy bloody mind for so concluding it.
And on Sejanus for effecting it.
And on Sejanus for effecting it. Yet, villain, do I curse my cursed self, down poisoned by the execrations of those that thou by me hast murdered.
Believe him, sirs. Maybe he speaketh truth.
It may be, tyrant. Nay, it is too true. Caius and Lucius were murdered, and Agrippina by Tiberius. So poisoned Germanicus was slain, Sabinus and Asinius were dispatched, and Julia for her son Tiberius. And so thou lovest Drusus, thine own son, to suck his blood, in whose death still I joy. To think that therein I o'erreached a tyrant, poor prince, unjustly doomed for sudden death, which in his life he only thus deserved by giving me a word on the ear. But as for treason's ignominious spot against thyself, thy life or diadem, his innocent thoughts were never tainted with.
Hold, heart, break not betwixt my rage and grief.
Only for this.
Only for this? Oh, fury, teach my tongue to breathe eternal curses on his soul.
Oh, how I triumph in soul-pleasing joy, that herein yet I die not unrevenged. I made him die for mine own proper fault. For know, Tiberius, as in all the rest, so in thy son Drusus' sad tragedy, I grounded the foundation of my hopes, meaning upon the ocean of their bloods to swim unto the throne of majesty, and from thy hand rend the imperial crown.
Here is the catalogue of his deserts. 'Tis pity but he were an emperor. Spurius.
He whispers in Spurius' ear.
Make haste, I charge thee on thy life.
Exit Spurius.
Herein I must detract from policy, and fortune attribute the cause to thee, that thus I may revenge this treachery.
Revenge? Aye, alas, thou mayst perhaps on me inflict the extremity of punishment, and rid thee so of one piece of thy fear. But yet thou canst not scape deserved death, for from the phoenix ashes of their sire, the heart revived young Germanici, wise Nero, and fierce Drusus, armed with rage, come like a lightning to consume thy state.
Soldiers, pursue them ere they pass the walls to join themselves unto the legions.
Why, lunatic usurper of the crown, they are the lawful heirs unto the state, thou but adopted by false treachery. My right as good as thine is to the crown, for both but false, and both but villainy.
Thou dost me wrong, Sejanus, to upbraid me thus, with ignominious title of ingrate, or wrong detaining what is not mine own.
Enter Spurius with a burning crown!
Who, I usurp your crown and your estate? I were not fit to live, and if I should. Therefore, my masters, here, before you all, I do resign my crown imperial unto Sejanus, and do invest him Caesar.
And he sets the burning crown upon Sejanus' head.
All hail Sejanus, Rome's great emperor.
All hail! Hell, death, destruction plague you all. Let all the tortures, torments, punishments in earth, in heaven, in hell revenge my death, whose burning pain torments me not so much as that there comes not from my scalded brains sufficient smoke to smother all of you.
He dies.
So die thy curses with thy cursed self. Now, one go cast his body into Tiber, the rest go with me. 'Tis high time to haste.
And exit. And I think if anyone's going to do any dating on this, it's got to be after Hoffman, hasn't it? Because, dear God, I mean, I said earlier that poisoned crown felt a bit Hoffman-y, and then we get the tragedy of Hoffman. I mean, we've had this. We've including not as lengthy death speech by the person cursing everybody else to go to hell, which is how Hoffman ends. So yeah, this is doing all the. I mean, we were laughing a lot because it's very silly, but it is. I especially love the bit when Tiberius is going, you to do. Look, I made you say the thing, because you were just repeating me. Look, I made you look an idiot. And it's like, I'm going, that's so wonderfully petty. I mean, again, it's all effect. It's all just over the topness. It's just, yeah. And it's delightfully silly. I love it. Who wants to leap in on this one? Alan, then Lois.
Yeah, you mentioned Hoffman. I'd put a question in the chat as to where that was date wise.
Well, it's early 17th century, so I think off the top of my head, I think it's about 1603-ish, somewhere around there.
Right, so this is maybe 3-4 years later.
I will double check the dating actually. Well, I'll do that live because that makes great video.
Published quite late, wasn't it?
But we'll do that. Well, Lois says some things while I look up the dating for Hoffman.
I was just thinking it could be the other way around. I mean, that Hoffman could have been influenced by this because one of the other obvious influences is the end of the Jew of Malta with Barabbas and his cauldron of boiling oil cursing everybody.
But the burning crown feels very specific, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but who knows? There may be other burning crown plays. I don't know where he got this one, but I mean, a lot of that language, I mean, Barabbas ends up with die, life, fly, soul, tongue, curse thy fill, and die. It's the same sort of rage, and a lot of that. It also reminds me some of this of Antonio's Revenge, or maybe no, I think it's Antonio and Melida, where Piero comes in and has a whole string of, I think first a whole string of nouns and then a whole string of verbs to go with them, all in the right order. And you also get that in the Spanish tragedy. I mean, a really unbelievable rhetorical device.
Yeah, so Hoffman is very specifically early 1603, and Admiral's Men. So, do we feel it could be, could be from the same company, going, hey, because, there's nothing like ridiculously long speeches for whoever's in charge at that particular juncture. It does ebb and flow a bit, so yeah. Fun times. I enjoyed that a lot. I don't know whether yeah, it's all effect. It's all effect. I like effect. I've been looking at a lot of melodrama lately, so this is all very much in my wheelhouse. Okay, well, death has occurred. Sejanus has died in a completely unhistorical way, and frankly, this opening, this is nothing to do with history guy who wrote the bit at the beginning saying this is very historically based. I'm sorry, nonsense. I'm calling bullshit now. I'm calling explicit nonsense. Francis.
Yeah, I was just struck by the fact that Tiberius said throw his body in the Tiber, and I know that in reality his body was thrown down the steps, wasn't it?
And it was dismembered by the crowd.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they're supposed to take it that they dropped it on the steps. Maybe that, it's slippery. Aliki.
Oh, Piso has just been dismembered by the crowd. Come on. Gotta come up with something new.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, you can tell the room is just so happy when people are being brutally killed. It's just, it always cheers my heart. Right, scene 23. Enter Agrippina, Solus.
Oh, heavens, and if that any power be higher, oh, earth, and if that any lower lie, melt heavens into a shower of supple balm, flower earth, all purpled with Nepenthes leaves, to foolish Agrippina to complain, earth, heaven, Nepenthes balm, and all in vain, this earthly heart, it is my pleasing earth.
She openeth the box with the heart of Japanicus.
This is Nepenthes that does cure annoy, the balm, this cassia, this sweetest myrrh, when I forget to joy in this respect. Heaven, earth, Nepenthes, all do me neglect. Oh, what a dungeon is this tabernacle, to whom and when and where shall I complain? I know not, and again I know, for Agrippina is amazed with woe.
Enter Macro.
Madam, Tiberius Caesar's Majesty sent me to tell you of his near approach.
Will Nero come? Where are his tortures then? His rod, his hatchets, racks, gyves, manacles, whips, gridirons, tumbrils, lions, tigers, bears, oh my, and all this uncouth, new-found messengers with bloody Phalaris could ne'er invent. Can fair Palantius leave her Lucifer, or Phoebus shine, and not Aurora rise? Tush, you are much deceived. Nero will not come.
Lady, my heart doth yearn to hear your grief, to surge in billows of such bitter waves, and
what? Good gentlemen, tell out the rest. What will you set a ship upon my sea, fraught with 1,000 ton of heavy cares, and with a sharp tempestuous Roman wind, sail into Thule, or the frozen main, then glide upon the ice, and so to land, and sow these seeds of care twixt banks of rue, deep delved and deep rooted in cold clay. Then, in pursuing of this fainty soil, stay until harvest, and in autumn shear this fruitful corn, and so return again. But Agrippina, these fond humors leave. Macro, my grief, my senses half bereave.
True, Agrippina, Macro did much wonder the variable passions of sad sorrow, and I lament this tragic history, this doleful faltering engine should impart. Nero will hither come under pretext to comfort, but to try your patience, he hath an apple in such syrup dipped, which he in kindness means to offer you. If you accept present death. If you deny, he'll take exceptions against your faith and subjects' loyalty. Dreadful dilemma. Console as you may, I doubt that Nero must doubt my stay.
Exit Macro to look for a system update.
Dares he not stay? Oh, monstrous perjury! Did he not vow by Jove's eternal crown, by Saturn's sigh and Venus' golden belt, Mercury's changing rod, and Luna's horn, that he should stay with me? Oh, perjury! Nero, make haste. Yet stay. I'll pare my nails, lest I set my talents on his face and spoil Narcissus' comely personage. He will give me an apple. I'll give him, what, a lemon. But no, I'll give him a chestnut, and he'll crack the riven shell, and twixt his millstones grind the yielding meat. Germanicus, oh my Drusus, oh my dear Nero, no. Nero Caesar will visit me, and feed me fat with capons and with quails. Quails, no, with apples, so he comes. I shall be crammed today.
Enter Tiberius. Tiberius. With his attendants, Spurius and Nerva, Macro and Caligula following after.
Fair daughter Agrippina, you do wrong that spotless beauty with congealed tears, blotting those rubies with dissolved pearls, staining those roses with such crystal streams. Is not the world subject to Roman power, and thou the daughter of the emperor, and so the imperial mistress of the world? Then, Agrippina, but command the world, and all the world shall seek to comfort thee.
Nero, not all the world can comfort me, since all the world hath lost my comforter.
Hath all the world? What did your lord aspire? Daughter, you cannot rule unless you reign.
Blush not, dear ensign of my modesty. Shame light on me, if that I be ashamed, since thou wilt never be ashamed of shame. My lord Germanicus, did he aspire? No, Nero, no, there lurks the fistula of fawning hatred that did murder him. Did he not honor Rome and Germany? Did he not homage to Tiberius? Did he not love his country past compare? Courteous and mild, and too obsequious, too well beloved, and too credulous, and therefore murdered.
Nay, stay a while, and breathe, and rail, and breathe again, and then I hope your ladyship will stay. Meanwhile, hold, here's an apple to refresh the dried vapours of your fuming head. Eat it, and breathe, eat it, and rail again. So, fair daughter, to allay your pain, words ease the stomach.
So must they mine, or else my heart would break in vile despite. Monster of monsters, ill is too good, cruel too mild a title for thy deeds. Nature could never find a man so bad that might resemble thy foul villainies. Toad, crocodile, asp, viper, basilisk, too wholesome, tame, mild, gentle, virtuous for Nero's poison, fury, envy, wrath.
Woman, I listen much unto thy taunts, yet know that I have pandaturia. There, babble to the wind thy foolish moans. Therein some desert makes thy elegies. Tune them unto the puling harmony of the lamenting consort bred in Thrace. Rome shall not hear thy yelling execrations, before Enos shall 4 times be washed in Nereus' fountain with Hyperion. Upon thy life, see that thou see not Rome, but banish back to Pandaturia.
First let the head of Nilus be revealed. Let Tiber flow in Egypt, Nile in Rome. Let earth to air and water turn to fire. All to confusion. Let heaven turn to hell. And which is more and most prodigious, let Nero think one thought of honesty, if Agrippina yield to banishment. Did not Sejanus blazon all thy wrongs, that all the world doth loathe thy treacheries? Did not the Parthian king admonish thee? Thou wert a villain, and thou sworest was true. Doth not each night with dreams of thy foul sins torment thy soul with ghastly spectacles? Caius, Lucius, Augustus, Julia, Sejanus, and my lord Germanicus solicit Pluto for thy deep revenge. They do, and all the Furies shake their newly filed iron whips for their revenge. If there be heaven, be sure of Nemesis. If there be hell, be sure to be tormented with baleful tortures never yet invented.
Not all this while. Good daughter, out of breath? Well, speak thy last, that Rome shall hear thee prate.
My last fond tyrant, know that I will speak in spite of Nero, in disdain of Rome. Nero the butcher, bloody shambles Rome, who sells the fairest ware at meanest price.
Aye, and because peevish wilful grief hath made you somewhat lean, not fit for sale, you shall to grass, to Pandaturia, provide her hay and water store enough.
No, what shall I call this hate of earth? I call him Nero. That's the worst of all. Nero, it shall not need. I am provided of fairer cates without thy honest care. The corn that makes my bread are yellow cates, ripened by heat of anger in my breast. The barren field of naught but careful feeds. My meat, the sodden sorrows of my heart, which boil with soft remembrance of my woes. And if I played the epicure in grief, my tears shall be the fence of my repasts. If ever other food my tongue do taste, if ever other food my stomach do concoct, let all be turned from sustentation to fill imposthumes with contagious filth. I tell thee, Nero, Agrippina will die and starve herself, and scorn thy banishment. 'Tis 2 days since I last did taste of meat. Cursed be my soul, if ever I do eat.
Will you not? Caesara, go fetch some food. I'll make thee curse thyself. Hold, take, fall to.
Detested tyrant, I do scorn thy food.
Then help Sirrah, ope her mouth and feed her. Cut her meat small and feed her daintily.
Out, villain.
And he feedeth her, and she putteth it out again. Pah!
Sirrah, dispatch, I say. Nay, cram her then, and feed her fat withal.
He choketh her, and so she dies.
What? Hast thou strangled her? Here, take thy hire. Canst thou not feed a door no better yet?
And stabs him, whoever him is precisely.
Ah, Nero.
What, never be content? She chose of this rather than banishment, and better choke than starve, our wilful daughter. She's gone, and if I live, thou shalt go after.
Exeunt everyone except for Macro and Caligula.
Barbarous, inhumane, worse than cruelty, which gods and men mine eyes and soul do hate. What Hyperborean climate in the north? What Lydian desert, Indian vastacy? What wildness in wild Arabia? So hateful monster ever nourished to hinder willing death by villainy, Caligula, changeling Caligula. Where is the spirit of Germanicus? Did he beget thee in an idle dream, or did thy mother think it vanity, as Aethiops, queen upon Andromeda? If but one spark by chance remain alive, if but one drop, one mathematic point, make up a sea, a body by addition, blow up, Caligula, this fiery spark. Caligula, remember what thou art.
Macro, Caligula can bear thy taunts, can be upbraided at a captain's hand. My father told me, and I remember it, the highest virtue is true patience. I know not what you mean by all these words that mount my father's praises to the sky. To live securely, I deem that the best, and a great virtue to be patient.
Patient, Caligula? I am ashamed. I am impatient to hear that word, that noble title wrested from his sense. Ah, did not Marco serve Germanicus, when, as thy mother bare thee in the field? Did not a pearl of trumpets sound thy birth, and drums make music to allay her pains? What, thou not trained afore thou couldst speak? Didst thou not wear a common soldier's suit? And therefore hadst thy name Caligula? Where is thy captive soul imprisoned? Thy lion's heart in cage? No, thou art wise. Thou deemest that Nero hath emboldened my tongue to make a glazing theme of flattery, to shift thy secrets and to sell thy life. First, let the earth open her cursed womb and swallow up this hellish mansion. Let every step be tread on scorpion. Let every object be a ballast. Let heaven, what can I with Caligula? Here is my poniard. Here be sure strike home. If thou canst have at least one suspicion, let Macro seek to undermine thy lord. What, shall I come a supplicant?
Macro, Caligula doth not mistrust, nor hath he reason to misdoubt thy faith. But Macro, thus much for Caligula. Meet me at Friday's temple, there thou shalt know more than unto my mother I durst show.
Were it in fail, I would thither post, to hear the sentence of Caligula. So then, my lord, adieu.
Farewell, Macro.
And exit Macro.
My father slain or poisoned in the east. Livia become a foul adulteress. Nero and Drusus fast shut up in ward. And thou, dear mother, here liest butchered.
And kneels down.
Grow to the earth, ye feeble instruments, till I distill a liquid sacrifice from my heart's fulness. And these crystal streams, ye tried up wells, strain out a little more. 'Tis Agrippina that you must deplore. Proud spirit, bound thy spelling timpani, till I unfraught this gallery of laments. Then clear thy passage and burst out in fire, and make an earthquake in this little world. What shall I vow? To whom shall I lament? Unto the marbles, they do weep for sorrow. Unto the walls, they rive themselves with grief. Unto the beasts, why, they would starve themselves to feed themselves upon this fading hue. Marbles and walls and beasts more ruth than he that was the author of this tragedy. Aeneas, burthen never was so dire as this celestial burthen which I bear.
He takes her in his arms and goes in. So that once again got quite stabby. So yeah, the whole apple thing, force feeding food, we've had that recently. Spitting it out again, and then strangulation. It's not actually wholly clear as to which the servant is doing the murdering and then gets murdered himself. Is it Nerva going at the end there, or is it Nerva going, oh no, maybe not. We'll see who's alive later on. So yeah, Tiberius is really into the stabbiness. He likes killing off the people who do the killing. Our hit rate for death is pretty high. There's some great insults coming on here, and some interesting invective. There lurks the fistula of fawning hatred. Was not a line I was expecting to hear today. It's though I have to say it's one I want to try and put into everyday use if I can. So yeah, it's really, this session, it has become so extreme. You think actually, last session we had a big fight scene, but it was all and a battle, but it was all quite restrained in many ways. And yes, there was someone did get torn limb from limb, but that was sort of a setup here, and then we get this lengthy sequence with Macro and Agrippina, and then going, look, don't eat the apple, don't eat the apple, and the way Tiberius just randomly, he's listened to her going, I hate you, I hear that you hate me, have some fruit. It's like Tiberius isn't very good at this, is he? Lois. Oh, you're muted at the moment, Lois.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know why Tiberius lets Sejanus go on, and why he lets Agrippina go on and on. Maybe he likes to hear people saying how much they hate him, or maybe he's deaf and doesn't actually hear any of it. But it seems just very odd.
Low self-esteem.
Yeah, yeah, poor guy. Yes, if only people had been nicer to him when he was a baby. I don't know. No, it's appalling stuff. But yeah, I just the spitting out stuff. I think we've had, again, that reminds me a bit of Tamburlaine torturing Bajazet and giving him food which he throws down, and they comment on it. I don't know, but it's probably, I start wondering whether this is somebody who took his nice classical tragedy to the Admiral's men and they said, yeah, it needs a bit more action, a bit of violence. And then he said, okay.
Yeah, it does feel that way, because it does feel like we keep going into different modes. And though the writing style doesn't change, I don't feel that this is different hands doing different jobs of work. I mean, there are occasional bits where the verse sort of steps up into a slightly different register, but on the whole, it just feels like, no, we're doing this bit now. We're doing this bit now. And then we're doing this bit now. And it's like, that's what we're doing now. We're doing bloody revenge tragedy stuff. This section. That's just what we're doing here. That's and of course Caligula continues to be this noble, high-born, falutin chap, and we're all going, when's he going to be the horrible murdering psychopath? Is he going to do it? Is he? I'll go to Alan, then Aliki.
I'm just wondering whether the first draft omitted some of this OTT stuff, which would be very, very difficult to present these days without people just giggling in the aisles, and whether it was come on sunshine, we've got a 2-hour slot to fill here, chuck a bit of extra material in, more deaths.
But then I do wonder about the audience response, actually, whether all of these sort of revenge murdery tragedy things are playing with that line and deliberately dancing around that already. I mean, I'm really interested in what what is the expected audience response for this kind of material supposed to be, because it's really interesting. I mean, I'm really enjoying it, and it's not just because I find it fun, because I find it dramatically interesting, and that says probably a lot about my childhood. Aliki.
Well, we were talking, you mentioned just now about how Caligula seems to be the hero, and maybe he just is in this play. Maybe it ends with Caligula going, aha, the tyrant is dead. Because the other thing that we mentioned as a kind of gross historical omission is that Claudius doesn't exist. So if Claudius and Caligula are the same person, you can kind of almost see it. I mean, I don't know what you do with Caligula's actual time as emperor, but yeah.
Well, we are rapidly running out of pages, so I suspect Claudius isn't really a concern of this play. And Caligula's reign isn't really going to be an issue necessarily. Who knows? Okay, let's gather some more data, because I'm sure it's all going to just turn out lovely. So what we're calling scene 24, again, it could be a higher number potentially, depending on how you break the battle scene up earlier. Nero and Drusus chained in prison. That's always a good start, isn't it?
Brother, I faint, and now my starved soul seeks for to feed upon ambrosia.
Dear Drusus, would mine arms were but unchained, that thou mightest staunch thy hunger on my flesh. My colder humours feed my gnawing heat, that I can better yet endure the fast. See, brother, I think thou mayest reach mine arm. I pray thee, feed upon this lean repast.
No, brother, it would prolong my life till the great year when all things must be changed to the idea of the former's will. But if thy hungry wolf do vex thy soul, feed on these cates, taste on this brawny arm, that will rejoice to feed thy appetite.
Nay, brother, feed on mine.
Nay, brother, mine.
They eat each other's arms. Take a moment, everyone. I would also like to point out, this is also not original. We have been here before. Enter Caligula again.
Boast not, Antigone, of thy dear love. To Polynices, thy affected brother, whom thou in flight of Creon did entomb, I have entombed a far more precious jewel, I, in despite of Nero, far more cruel.
Ah, Nero, Nero, that dost us enforce to be such loving Roman cannibals.
Who calls on Nero? Was my mother's ghost?
Ah, cruel Caesar, brother, forgive my food digestive not, nor can I live.
Or am I blind, or do mine eyes behold my starved brothers? 'Tis so, Caligula.
Brother, farewell, my glass of life is run.
And I'll go with thee to Elysium.
They both die.
Is there a provident intelligence rules the world by his eternal being? Is there a Jove? And will he not be just? Or is he just? And will he not revenge? What is he? Whom or where or who can tell? Canst thou not move the heavens, then raise up hell?
Exit Caligula. This is the last straw. Watching his brothers eat each other's arms is clearly Caligula's been holding back all this time, and this is the last straw, isn't it?
Okay, now I'm mad.
He's not mad. He's furious. He is. So yeah, Caligula. This time it's personal. Lois.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a classical source for this. I mean, that last line is definitely an English translation of a Latin phrase that one comes across quite often. I remember seeing it ends with Acheronta movebo. I will, move Acheron if I can't move the heavens. So there may be more classical stuff to blame for this.
But we haven't had a two people offering to eat each other scene since the early 1590s, as I recall. There were at least two plays we did in a row that featured this trope, and it's been a while since we've really encountered them, I think.
The old King Lear play or something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and there was another one at the same time. Is it the Hunger in? Oh no, it's Locrine. There's animals and they're so starving that is there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There's
and
wild
also
beasts
feed
or
and be
something.
fat, my fair Callipolis,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. Yeah. I think again it all strikes me as earlier stuff. I mean, all this delight in really disgusting horror. It's more like Celsus and some of those plays of the early 1590s.
Yeah, but the problem is that it's also referencing stuff that it seems to be later, and that's the other thing, is there are so many references. It feels like it's playing with a style that is older, but actually it isn't. It feels more like a horror revival than your authentic 70s shtick. Aliki, were you waving?
I mostly just wanted to know where else the let's eat each other's bits comes from. Okay, so maybe this is somebody whose taste was formed in the 1590s, who thought that was the great era and is now doing the revival.
Well, the other thing I think we should also bear in mind is maybe this stuff never went away, but it didn't get onto the print market anymore in quantities. Maybe there's still plenty of these plays being produced in the 1590s into the 17th century, but the printers aren't interested in selling them. And this is just one example of something that actually is more populous. We've always got to remember that about 2/3 of the repertoire is missing, and that maybe this isn't unusual. It's just unusual that it survived, and that actually it's a perfectly bog standard play for a little before 1607. That's entirely possible. Or it could just be really weird and have nothing to do with anything whatsoever, which I think is where we'd be more comfortable placing it, because we like things to be tidy. I mean, it certainly is really weird, but I like that. People eating each other's arms. It's just what I want for a Thursday. Right. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next scene? Lois, you.
Oh, I think it may be Seneca that we've got to blame for this. I mean, there are some really gory bits in Seneca. I think, did you read some of the tragedies in translation?
We have done them all, yes.
Yeah, there's that bit in Hippolytus, I think, isn't there, where his father collects all the bits because Hippolytus has been torn to pieces. I mean, and he's been dismembered because of his horses dragging him over the rocks. So, I mean, I don't know, there's stuff like that. I think that may be what this author is aspiring to.
And you can blame the Greeks for that one.
Yeah. It's all a series of transmissions and echoes. Anyway, let us see where we go with what we're calling scene 25. Enter Tiberius with his guard.
Claudius Nerva starved himself to death. I wonder much what made the old man die. In truth, I loved him for his naked truth. In truth, he was an honest, simple man. Well, virtue go with him, vice stay with me, till I have massacred my prisoners and rooted out all this conspiracy. Then will I seem a renewed, reformed man, and rise betimes each morning to the temple. So afterwards I may contrive some drifts. I have a catalogue which I must find, and search the prisons whether I have all.
Julius Celsus crieth out of prison.
Nero, Celsus begs thine aid.
Julius Celsus, what is thy petition?
An humble suitor for your clemency.
My clemency, Celsus? Marry, and you shall. Aye, and great reason for Sejanus' sake.
Not in his name I beg compassion, but by thy virtues I do thee entreat. Now, gracious Nero, let my gyves be loosed.
And Celsus led to execution.
No, Tiberius, I desire not death, but for ease in my imprisonment. For this I beg.
For whose sake, Julius?
For mercy's sake and thy dear genius.
For that word, jailer, loose his iron bonds, or by my genius thou shalt lose thy head.
Oh, voice of comfort, thanks, Tiberius.
'Tis but for a while, know that, Julius.
Now, monster, tiger, earth's infection, plague of the world, scourge of our happy Rome, treason's firstborn, hell's outspewed vomit, prodigious homicide and murder's law that makes a sporting law to murder men.
Holler and breathe, and then begin again. Nero shall recompense thee for thy pain.
Such recompense had good Germanicus, such Agrippina, such had Julia, such Nero, Drusus, and their dearest mother, poor Agrippina. Why the Sabinus, Nerva, and thy other self, young Drusus, whose dear blood was once thine own, and yet of thine own hadst no compassion, and lastly, though not undeserving it, yet herein well deserving at thy hand, in that he was thy mistress' instrument. Hapless Sejanus, too improvident of his intended form by false intent, and such a recompense remains for me, the meanest subject of thy tyranny.
Marry, amen. Swear it an oracle.
But tyrant Celsus doth contemn thy fury. My mind was never feverish with fear of meagre death, life's due privation. I have already armed my age to die, whose age deems death the end of misery. See, therefore, tiger, hear thy mercy's fruit. The ease I sought, the end of earnest suit. For this I begged, for this I seemed unwilling, for to be dead that might gain my killing.
And he puts the chain about his neck and strangles himself.
Wondrous well gained here is good usury, where 'tis the gainer's interest to die. But oh, for the charity! Jailer, soldiers, run, rescue his life before his life be gone, yet let him go.
What is your highness will?
Nay, nothing now, but that as yon man dies, for charity close up his dying eyes. Why this it is to have a policy. Here's a poor plot to prevent cruelty, and 10 to 1 the villain understands how this will vex me that he escapes my hands. But let that pass, leave him to Acheron. His part is past, part of my parts to come.
Exit. Okay, so he doesn't strangle himself instantly. He basically the chains that were unloosed, he arranges, starts to strangle himself, and Tiberius says, "Jailer, come on." Actually, no, just leave him. But that as yon man dies, it's happening while he's talking. This play just. Yeah, so it definitely was Spyrus who was stabbed earlier. Nerva's now starved himself to death, and Celsus, random guy from earlier, has just strangled himself in Tiberius's, obviously, his pain management center that he has presumably underneath the palace. So yeah. Yeah, more dead people. We are running out of characters, people, and it had a big cast list.
Yep.
Nobody has any thoughts. I can tell. It's fine. Let's
all
carry
dead.
on. Let's get to the end. No, Eric, we'll get to the end. We'll come back.
I died 3 times.
You have.
Once off stage.
If you want to do your offstage death now, it's fine. I'll let you do that in the background. Okay, scene 26. Enter Caligula and Macro from Fides' temple.
Thus have we interchanged our mutual oaths in presence of the goddess of all truth. Macro, remember how thou art enjoined by words, by signs, by letters, and by thoughts, for to adore eternal secrecy.
And if my lord misdoubt my secrecy, cut out my tongue, cut off my traitor's hands, unjoint my body, and pull out my heart, that I may neither tell, nor make a sign, nor think one thought against your royalty.
Pardon me, Macro, if I somewhat fear that having all this while securely slept under the canopy of vanity, and never did impart my secrecy to father, mother, or my brethren, Nerva, Sejanus or Asinius, Nero, Sejanus, all I have deceived under pretext of youthful bravery. But Macro, to thy youth I recommend the supreme relic of Germanicus, by Agrippina's loathed execution, by my dear body's starved carcasses, by thee, by me, by all the gods, by all, and if that any number be more than all, joined to exile this proud Tarquinius, insulting Nero. No, not so, not so. Yes, so it must be, or else murdered, for naught but death can satisfy my wrongs.
Like as a greyhound in his hot pursuit strives to outstrip the fearful flying doe, or as Diana's girt to Celsus yearned out the outrun the beast of Arcady, both striving, yet both swifter than the blasts, disdain Boreas in his swelling pride, shot for the sister of fair Demere. So doth the honour of your hovering thoughts grudge to be equalled by my flattering flight. Yet, good my lord, give Marco leave to mount and seize upon the accosting stooping prey.
Not so I, Macro, 'tis that have the wrong.
But I, my lord.
But do not entreat, do not prolong with idle breathing words the date of cold revenge. For even this night, Nero shall be enrolled in Pluto's court, in Germany, far on the northern side, within the circuit of a desert wood, a wilderness of deadly basilisks. Within this circuit is an hellish pool, cold in the 10th degree, not Styx so cold, wherein the fearful Thetis drenched her son. In a mule's hoof this water have I kept, as fatal drink to Philip's worthy son. And even this night this water shall revenge the tyrant's wrongs unto Caligula. Macro, fly unto the legions, win their hearts, persuade with all thy warlike eloquence. Advance our eagles, and tomorrow morn approach with them unto the capital. Fail not, good Macro, but make haste away. This night for Nero or Caligula.
And they exit. Very briefly, we'll pause just to go. Some very overt lifts from Seneca / Spanish tragedy / all of that stuff. I mean, it's all of that, death sticks, etc. Things. So yeah, it's this play's got them all. It really has. It's packing it all in. Scene 27. Enter Livia, Solus.
Can Livia still participate this air, still temporize with fawning misery, still feed on cares, yet still vain hopes repair? Will nothing end my cruel destiny? What lumpish Saturn did inspire my breath, did make me die in life, yet live in death? Breathe out thy plaints, withal breathe out thy heart, evaporate the spirits of thy soul, weep out thy brain, the substance of thy smart that knew thy shame, yet would not sin control. Anatomize this sepulchre of shame, soul, heart, and brain, and all to blame. Is Drusus dead? And yet can Livia live? Sejanus at Elysium, and I stay. My father murthered, whom life can give, my brother starved, Livia not made away? Old Hecuba by death could ease her grief, and cannot Livia find out like relief? Can I, that flourished like the fairest rose, droop like the lily beaten down with rain? Can I, to whom each courtier's tongue would gloze, endure their scorns, their taunts and vile disdain? Could Livia live when Livia was contented? And cannot Livia die now she's tormented?
She kneels down by the well side.
Great Faunus, to whose sacred deity this sanctified grove is consecrate, accept the incense of my last piety, the best devotion I can dedicate. Accept, great Faunus, this my dying proffer. Many more great, no one more sincere can offer. Not Dido to Sichaeus sacrifice, nor Cleopatra under Antony, nor great Olympias could this truce despise, nor Sophonisba's loyal misery, Zenobia, Palmyca's noble queen, this fatal end of Livia might beseem. Fair fountain, clear the blots of infamy. Cold streams congeal the rumor of my death. Thou only, Philomela, sing my tragedy. Caroulla, dirge for my exhaled breath. Fair streams, I come. Let no man hear my cries. Let no man shed one tear that Livia die.
And here she leapeth down into the well. Again, we could say that's a scene in of its own right. It's a sort of bridging scene so that Caligula and Macro didn't have to exit and come back on again. So yeah. Interesting verse form. I thought there was some interesting stuff going on there. Again, I think we're leaning into the Seneca side of the universe again. But it's doing some interesting stuff. And yeah, Livia's fallen down the well. Ding dong bell. Livia's in the well.
There's Lassie when you need her.
Yeah. Eric.
I was just going to say that this must be interesting in terms of setup because it means that obviously you have a well, but also it means you probably have a trapdoor, right? So
this play is using all the mechanics of a standard Playhouse play, so it's obviously intended for that. I think that's fair. Okay, well, scene 28. I think we're at the end. Let's knock on that door. Enter Caligula, Solus.
By this, cruel Tarquin should be spared. Banished from Rome and Roman empery, much I fear, preservatives to stay the fury of this watery receipt. And Macro may be treacherous. What a fool was I for to impart my secrecy. Oh, what a villain was Caligula. Horror bounds me in this agony, but I'll catastrophize this tragedy. Did not the villain swear, and vow, and weep, offer his breast that I may make a window to see the cankers of his festered soul? And thou wouldst not take him at his word.
Enter Macro.
My lord, the legions are all up in arms for to salute your grace, the emperor.
Thanks, Macro. Royal friend, command them stay till I return from Nero back again.
Exit Macro. Caligula goeth to the place where Tiberius lieth sick, and pulleth aside the arras.
All happiness unto your majesty.
Curse be all happiness. for I have none. I have a fire within my bowels that burns and scalds and mads me with the pain. If I must die, yet would I had my will. Oh, that even all the people in the world had but one neck, that at one deadly blow I might unpeople all the world and die. Give me thy hands that I may rent my flesh and tear this raging from out of my burning entrails. Where is Asculapius? Who goes for him? I'll hail the leech from hell to cure my pain. And if that Nero do not quickly mend, I'll burn even all the temples of the gods that cannot help the Roman emperor.
Yes, I will help the Roman emperor and be revenged on thee, Tiberius. Thou monster tyrant, as thus I'll help thee that.
He stops his breath with the sheet and stabs him.
This for Germanicus, this for Agrippina, this for Nero, this for Drusus, this for Caligula. So...
Re-enter upon the stage.
There, Nero, thy hate of Rome lies butchered. He reigned no day, but some were murdered. Asking his master Zeno a Greek word, what dialect? He answered Doris, and therefore killed him, for because he thought he mocked him for his Rhodian banishment. He loathed wine now, because he swilled gore. More greedily then he did wine adore. He slew a poet for this little cause, because that in that doleful tragedy he railed on Agamemnon's cruelty. It is a holy law and Roman right. No vestal virgin should be strangled. He, for to invent a cruelty, made his first the hangman to deflower the maids, and then commanded for them to strangle them. When one had almost killed himself for fear, he made his surgeons for to cure his wounds. The tyrant would deny no witnesses. If any did accuse, 'twas present death. When first the tyrant did possess the crown, he sent to Rhodes for a dear friend of his, who cherished Nero in his punishment. He, coming into Rome, found out the prince, but in an angry, sullen discontent, who in a rage made him be tortured. And when the villain saw he had wronged his friend, he murdered him, that it might be concealed. He crucified one Peter, called a saint of holy Jews, that did adore one Christ, which they entitle Saviour of the world. He killed one Priam, therein happy most, that he lived and all his children lost. These, and so many more as I should tell, I should employ a world to number them, and still be further with Simonides, to signify the certain multitude. By these his acts I'll justify his death, that I may get Rome's royal empery, and to eternal glory of renown. I was a fool, but all to get the crown.
And ends. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't crucify St. Peter. So yeah, that's the justification there. Hey, Caligula's a great guy because he didn't do all those terrible things. Isn't Caligula wonderful? So yeah, but Tiberius was a terrible, terrible man who did terrible, terrible things. And you know, look, this is where we get into the whole question about Roman history as it was written by Romans. Is that there's an awful lot of spurious gossip which the Romans write about, some of which is of course true and some of which is not, and it is very difficult to pass what is and isn't true. So a lot of people said Tiberius was an awful guy. They're all the people who didn't like Tiberius. A lot of people said Caligula was a terrible guy, and they all said that who were against Caligula, and so on it goes, and they recycle each other's terrible, terrible things. That's politics. That's Roman politics for you. Yeah. So it's he just doesn't just smother him with a pillow. He stabs him as well. So that's I just think the blood machine is just it's just everywhere. I mean, this is a very, very. There's going to be a guy with a mop who is going to be very. I mean, the stage manager is going to hate this one. He's going to absolutely loathe this one. Yeah. So it ended. Oh. Thoughts on that as an ending? I mean, kind of did what it said on the tin. Terrible tyrant. gets horribly killed. Yeah. I don't know. Is everyone just in a shocked silence of just going, Christ? No, St. Peter. Lynn.
Yeah, it's weird. This writer likes long monologues. I mean, you know, the scene with Livia deciding to drown herself in the well was, I don't know, 3 times as long as it needed to be. You just need a buffer scene between 2 macro and Caligula scenes in it. And she just goes on and on. And like this ending monologue, actually pretty long, and you know, lists all these things that Tiberius did that we didn't know about before, as if like what we know about wasn't enough. And it's just weird.
Yeah, but it's weird. If you treat this as, say, a revenge tragedy, at the end, you're not supposed to get away with it. But because it's history, and of course, Caligula doesn't eventually get away with it. He gets stabbed himself. But it's sort of really weird that he's just standing there covered in blood, just going, yeah, but he deserved it. And that's the end of the play. And
yeah, and the army's ready to back me up.
Yeah.
As so I'm good.
It's. I think this is this unique in the way of an ending of a play that ends this way. It does seem to be quite different from other plays. In that sense, you know, we have horrible bloody tragedies, but you don't sort of end on this note, and I find that really interesting. It's really weird. I mean, calling in, you know, the whole St. Peter thing there, and that which has been a thread throughout, actually. They keep mentioning, hey, those Jews, they've got this guy, and you know, there's been some uprisings going on over there, so it's, you know, and all the rest of it. So that's an interesting thread to sort of justify a lot of what this text is doing. Aliki.
There was some immortal soul stuff too, which was
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of.
Are they trying? Sorry,
no, go on.
Are they to bless it kind of retroactively by going, actually, it was because he persecuted the Christians or whatever? I don't know enough about when the persecutions of the Christians happened. In any case,
it's going to take a while yet. They've only just temporarily got going, as it were. So yeah, I mean, I think that's all largely that element is
at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not even proper proto-cult yet. I don't think many people really know about it yet. They haven't really got onto the proselytizing stage. But hey, okay. We're going to move into that final thought question of how do you stage this? And with gusto. It's my answer. I think we lean into the grand guignol, the over the topness of it all. I'm not afraid of getting some laughs. Actually, I think you don't aim for the laugh. I think if you treat this as a spoof, I think you are dead. But I think actually you can enjoy the excess of it. I think you just need to trim those long speeches back and just allow the text has fire within my bowels. I mean, you know, I could really enjoy playing Tiberius, he said. I'm just pointing that out now. Just marking that on my card for future reference of just going, yeah. I mean, actually, as an actor, there aren't many roles in this where I wouldn't go, I could do something with that. I mean, no guarantee what the effect would be, but I could do something with it. So yeah, cut it down and buckets of blood. Honestly, I think you've got the blood is compulsory. I don't think you can excise that. I mean, God knows how you do the eating of each other's arms, but how explicit you go with these things. I mean, it's I'm curious. I have many thoughts. Anyway, final thoughts around the room. I'll go to someone who's been here all week. Aliki, any final thoughts?
I'm with you. I think this would be grand fun, and you just need to cut not just the speeches, but some of the between people scenes as well, quite a bit, and let the slasher film go. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Just lots of cuts. Yeah. Lois, any final thoughts? Muted at the moment. You're obviously saying it's the most fabulous piece of work ever written. It's got real depth to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, the hidden depths, and everybody's been wrong about this play all these years. All the criticism written on it, they've missed the point completely, and I'm about to reveal it.
I mean, I'm assuming there isn't actually a vast amount of criticism on this play beyond it's there.
Yeah. No, that's right. And actually, I did go to an inaugural lecture last week where I was told, oddly enough, in the introduction to the speaker, that her favorite stage direction was they eat each other's arms. So I was quite pleased to discover it. No, I don't know that I've really got anything to say about it. I mean, I thought it was a reasonably good play until it started becoming just ridiculous. But if you cut a lot and it just happened in a very short, punchy way, first this, then this. The only problem I see is that, I mean, the sort of audience you get would probably know something about these people. At least they would know that Caligula was not what he appears to be here, and that some of the other stuff wasn't right. If they knew Johnson's Sejanus, which I think is pretty accurate about what happened to Sejanus, they would be a bit puzzled by this.
I think it probably needs a prologue setting up the nature of the show. It's just the prop master preparing the blood, just going. I think, I'd love to. I think Aliki said this the other day. I'd love to see this now in comparison with Sejanus. Do the two back to back. What a fascinating comparison that would be. Let's go to someone who hasn't been here so much. Francis, you've been here at the beginning and the end, as it were. Yes. You missed the big battle scenes in the middle, which is a very separate episode. Any final thoughts?
God, it's overwritten. But I mean, that's the understatement of the year, right? And I pity the contemporary audience that had to sit through this, particularly if they were schoolboys, as Lois suggested in the first session. But that said, I did enjoy reading Tiberius, so I can well understand your earmarking that role for yourself, Rob, because he didn't have a lot of long speeches in today, and he was interacting a lot more with the other characters, which I liked. So, yeah, what more can I say?
Yes, interacted with a lot of other characters quite sharply. Quite a stabby motif. Eric, you too have been here, beginning and end. Any final thoughts?
No, I was only here for today.
Oh no, you've only been here today. Yes, so utter newbie to this world, and it really hasn't quite been like this throughout. It's been overwritten throughout, but it really hasn't been quite as brutal as it has been today.
Well, it had to end this sometime, I feel like the Sejanus would be more interesting because I actually enjoyed that Johnson play, which is a weird thing to say, I feel, but anyway.
Some people are allowed to enjoy Johnson. It's allowed,
I know. It's just kind of weird because, Johnson usually has that wall of words thing that we talk about, or try not to talk about because there are other things in life other than words. But yeah, I kind of feel like you have to go, hammer horror with this one, sort of maybe, Vincent Price type things, just because it would be awesome to do that. And I don't know if I'd want to be Tiberius. I just every role has something, except maybe Nerva, who gets 3 words, Nero, some help or whatever it was, and then I mean, it took a lot of pondering before those words came out. No, I'm kidding, but just sort of, it's a difficult play to parse in the last session, but it's very much because you talked about how it's an excess of things, so I guess it kind of fits with Roman excess back then, or at least imperial excess back then.
Yes, maybe that's what this play's really about, is a deep-seated commentary on excess and how it corrupts everything. That's what's going on there. Alan, any final thoughts?
I must admit, I'm not quite sure what the point of it is it almost feels in parts as it's almost like fan fiction. Someone who'd enjoyed the gorier plays of the 1590s. Oh, well, I like that bit from that one. I like that bit from that one. And I like that bit from that one. And how can I whack them together so that they form a show? And if in doubt, just turn the volume up to 15.
But we have encountered lots of plays that have done that. I mean, this is not unique in that sense. Its writing style is quite unique in the sense that the writing style is very mannered and it does the same exercise again and again and again. But in terms of what the play structurally is doing, what the scenes are doing, and what those things, it's interesting what it decides to put on stage and also what it doesn't. There's an awful lot of people who die off, or stuff that happens off stage, caves collapsing, and things like that. He comes on dusting himself, sort of infer what's going on rather than actually see it. So it makes some really weird choices about what it wants to show you and what it wants to tell you. So yeah.
I think actually the thing on that is it's a lot easier to present a single, a messenger comes on, gives his line, stabbed. Next, stabbed. That's fairly easy to stage, whereas doing a pitched battle or the siege of Venones or anything like that is more tricky to do. Needs more setting, more props, possibly more people. So it could almost be that was done for budgetary reasons.
I've had a thought. Okay, here's my theory, right? So this show is produced specifically for a combination of actors and tumblers, and the whole thing, the reason why you have a messenger come on with 2 lines is because he's really good at dying, and that's his one job. And so he's got the lines, and then again death, and we have the battle scene. It's action by havoc. That's what this entire is built. Or this is not an actual theory, but I like the idea that this entire play has been structured for stuntmen, and they've got about 3 people who can do long speeches, and that's the structure for the entire play. That is that's my new theory. I'm going with. Lois, please contradict me. I know.
No, I think you're thinking of Chinese opera. Don't they do that kind of somersault and go off stage when they've been killed? Yeah, just have a whole series of messengers somersaulting across the stage. Sounds great.
Connor, you've been here for this session and mostly invisible from your dark cube. Any final thoughts?
Well, that was a bit kind of bloody, wasn't it? I just come in, everyone dies. I quite liked it. I agree with you, Rob. I think you really need to go OTT with it. Grunganel, that's it. I just have this vision of it like being contemporized to our modern government and cabinet reshuffles and PMQs, like complete. When you see PMQs, and it's just like yelling at one another, like a big battle scene with tumbling and high wires and people floating in the air and just going crazy and just over the top. But I think it should be modern dress and the actors looking very much like our current government and see what that turns out for the audience. Just blood everywhere.
Current government at time of recording. We'll see how murderous we feel where the next lot are in power. We shall see. Not all governments are equal. And finally, Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah. I do think that give it a modern setting and make people bear an uncanny resemblance to those in power currently is maybe sort of genius. And Rob, you're right. It's like it's interesting and a little impenetrable what he decides to show and what he decides to tell. It's also hard to backform the logic for what he spends a lot of time on, a lot of words on, and what he gives short shrift. So, I mean, I will stick by the criticism that I articulated early on, that the pacing is really weird. And I'm not sure I agree that if you go full on spoof, you sink the ship. That's kind of what I would be inclined to do. Although I definitely see the logic between you don't care if you get last, but you're not going for them deliberately. That might actually be a better path to tread. But it's just, yes, particularly this last third. Yeah, it really pivots to farce here in the last movement of the play. So it definitely needs a lot of editors pruning shears, and particularly in the beginning. These like long two-handers where nothing really happens. All of that needs to be edited down, and and you've got 5 dead bodies on stage at one time. You've got some guy strangling himself with chains. You just got to lean into that one way or another. Yeah, that's what this play is about. Is the crazy effects? Is all that sort of peck and paw violence.
We didn't even talk about the logistics of that strangulation, because in theory he's sort of off stage and then he's brought. There's intimation that the jailer brings him on or something, or maybe there's some sort of apparatus that he's brought on so that he's hanging from something, and how that's done is actually really unclear in the text, because the jailer seems to be actively undoing the manacles or whatever, holding his arms. So there's some mechanics going on there that would need to be figured out. But it's the fact that he's just choking himself and Tiberius is just having a chat, and that's darkly comic. I think that seems to be deliberately darkly comic. Lois, then Eric.
Yeah, I was trying to picture the staging on that. I mean, I think prison scenes are just created by having people come on in chains, and you assume they're in a prison. But then, I don't know, it could be somebody coming up through a trap door, I suppose. And because what's Tiberius doing in his palace, apparently right next to the prison? I mean, there is possibility that he had his own little dungeon or a little a cubicle nearby where he could go play whenever he felt like it. But I don't know. It all seems really odd to me, where this voice is coming from and what we're supposed to be imagining at that point.
Eric.
Yeah, I was going to say the location in this place seems a bit fluid. Like you go from like in terms of maybe it says the scene at the beginning, but I feel like you don't really know where in Rome you are. Because you kind of go from like having a well to being indoors to being outdoors to being like by the prison, and what's going on here?
Yes, the script does not give us locations. It gives us things that are going on. It'll give us properties or a sense of enter Tiberius with guard pursuing, enter with some stuff, of which we can infer a location, but the script never actually states where anything is. Alan.
Yeah, and I mean it's not even that you could set it within the palace and the palace grounds, because you got chunks of the first third that we did, which are in Germany. Then you got bits in Eastern Europe. You've then got the cave sequence, which I think is probably somewhere down near Baiae, down near Naples. So it's all over the damn place.
It's
playing with the unities, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's ignoring the unities because that's just what this kind of drama does. It denotes and connotes based on props and what they say and what they're acting. But if you've got someone chained up and they're going to hang themselves, there must be something that is brought on to make that work on some level, and the text does not give us data on that. But hey, that's a problem for future people, not for us. We need to do some more tidification. Eric, very briefly before I close.
Well, also health and safety didn't exist back then, so like Livia jumping down a well even if that was a trapdoor, could have easily broken her leg, assuming trampolines were not invented.
I'm sure they had they had a system. I'm sure it was fine. Hey, for all we know, the guy strangling himself, all he actually does is jump into a hole, and you just have a dangling chain above him that sort of wiggles a lot while Tiberius is looking down the hole. It'd be that would actually be probably funnier than actually watching him dangle doing death acting. But yeah, the health and safety logistics on this is pretty. There's a lot to sort out there. Anyway, on that note, if you'd like to join us for more Death and Destruction, you can sign up and read along with us. We have sign-up sheets that are available on our website, beyondshakespeare.org, and we meet several times a week when we're in session, and you can join us if you so desire. There's no entries. You just sign up and we give you parts and you read the parts. You can even just sit in the background and watch us do it live if you want. Otherwise, you'll have to wait a year, because that's about the lead time that we have on actually releasing the videos. There you go. Earlier to the subscribers and people who are in on the thing. But otherwise, no, you don't get it for ages. Anyway, till then, I've been your host, and these have been all these wonderful readers who've done some wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Seek, search, inquire, stop, say, examine, spy, watch. Have a care.